Alright class, today we're going to be talking about topic 10-2. We're going to talk about three theorems, SSS, SAS, and ASA. And these will help us tell what congruent triangles are. And so we'll get to the more specific things here in a little bit. But first, here's some important information that we need to know. Side AB is opposite angle C. It's pretty obvious. Now side AB is included between angle A and angle B. Now given that we know that angle A and BC, well, we have to put the word opposite here. A is opposite BC. And angle A is, let's see, AB and AC is included between AB and AC. So we're talking about things that are opposite and things that are included. It's going to be very important for understanding our triangle congruency theorems. Now, we can show that two triangles are congruent if any of the following are correct. Our first theorem is called SSS, which stands for side, side, side. And it basically says that if all three pairs of corresponding sides are congruent, then the two triangles are congruent. So I've got, well, this side that's congruent to that side. This side is congruent to that side. And that side is congruent to that side. So, by side, 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 these two triangles are congruent. Another way that I can prove triangles are congruent is called SAS, which is side, angle, side. And it says that if two pairs of corresponding sides and the included angle are congruent, then the two triangles are congruent. So it's two sides and the angle that fits between the two sides. Knowing this much information, I can prove that this triangle is congruent to that triangle. And our last one is ASA, which hopefully you understand by now means angle, side, angle. So if I have the side included between two angles, that tells me that these triangles are congruent. Now, one thing I want you to know that we don't have, okay? We have side, 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 angle, side, and angle, side, angle. We do not have any side, side, angle. And if you rewrite that, we don't have any that are like that either. Moving on to our examples. So in every example, we've got three steps. The first step is to state our congruent parts. The second step is to tell how are these triangles congruent. Is it SSS, ASA, or AAS? Sorry, SAS. SAS. Well, we have that AB is congruent with DE. that BC, well, that one's congruent with EF. And I know that this angle, angle B, is congruent with this angle, angle E. So I've got two angles and a side, and the side is included. So this was going to be ASA. Now here comes the part that's a little bit more tricky. I need to state the congruence. Well, if I say triangle ABC is congruent, I need to make sure that I put these in the same order. Well, A to B, that has the line. Well, D to E has the line. B and E, those are the ones in the center. And from B to C, we have the two lines. So from E to F, we have the two lines. So triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. Let's go ahead and try this on another one. Well, let's take a look. Well, I've got this arc right here. So I know that angle SPR is going to be congruent to another angle. And when SPR, well, that's one's going to be congruent to QPR. Oh, and I know that these are both 90 degrees, so I know that SRP okay, that must be congruent with another angle. I want SRP, well, that's going to be QRP. Now, what is something else? Well, I know that it's not these two angles. I don't have any marks on any of my sides, but if you'll notice, I have a shared side. This side is shared between them both. Well, I know that a line segment has to be congruent to itself. So PR is congruent to RP. Or I could have just said that PR is congruent to PR. That also would have worked. So I've got my three congruency statements. With my three congruency statements, I can then use either SSS, ASA, or SAS. Well, I know only one side. And so the only option of my three that has one side is ASA. And I've got an angle, I've got two angles, and the side in between. Two angles and the side in between. Now for our congruency statements, we've got a triangle. Let's just say RSP. Sorry, RSP. It's congruent to another triangle. Well, R was my right angle, so I need to start with my right angle on this one, which also happened to be R. Now, I used my side that's not congruent next, because I've got two ways I can go. I could go this way, or I could go this way. And I chose to go S, which means I chose to use this side, the one that's not congruent to anything. Well, on my other triangle, I can either go this way, or I can go this way. And I chose to use the route that is not congruent to anything, which would be this one. So it would be RQ. And then my last angle is the one that's congruent to another angle. Congruent to another angle. There would be P. So RSP is congruent to RQP. Now, just to go back a little bit, I could have said RSP, RQP. I could have said SRP and QRP. I could have done PRS and PRQ. It really doesn't matter as long as whatever order you use for the first triangle is the same as the order you use for the second triangle. Let's go ahead and talk number 3. Well, what do I know? Well, I see actually a hash mark. HE is a side that is congruent to FG. I've got double hash marks. EF, well, that would be congruent to HG. And then, well, I don't see any more of my little tick marks. I don't see any angles marked. Well, you know I've got a shared side. I'm going to go ahead and mark that one with 3. And I know that HF, well, it's got to be congruent with itself of HF. Now on my triangle, my congruency statement. Well, I've got all 3 sides, so that means that this is S, S, S. And now for my congruency statement. Let's just say EFH, triangle EFH. And I did 2 ticks, 3 ticks, 1 tick. So I need to go from, I need to use my, so I went 2, 3, 1. So I need to do the same thing. I need to do 2 ticks, then 3 ticks, and then 1 tick. Well, to go from 2 to 3, I need to go to G, from G to H to F. Don't forget my triangle sign. So EFH was GHF. 2 ticks, 3 ticks, 1 tick. 2 ticks, 3 ticks, 1 tick. Just got to make sure that you're going in the same order. All right, number 4. Well, I'm looking at this, and oh, I've got a tick mark. So I know that VX, that one's got to be congruent to XZ. I've got an angle mark. I know the angle V has got to be with angle Z. And now I'm looking, I don't see any more marks. I don't see any more shared sides. But what I do see are vertical angles. Vertical angles are always congruent. So I know that angle, we'll say WXV, is congruent with YXZ. Again, you need to figure out what it is. Is this SSS, ASA, or SAS? Well, I know 2 angles and a side that's in between. 2 angles and the side in between means that this is ASA. My triangle congruency statement, let's go with WXV. It's congruent to, what do we need? Well, W was the one that was not marked, so I need to start with the one that's not marked. That would be the Y. Then X, that was the one with 2 marks, so I need to go with the one with 2 marks. That's X again. And then 1 mark of V means I need to go with the 1 mark of Z. And don't forget your triangle symbol. On to example number 5. I'm looking at this, and I have a parallelogram. And some useful hints about parallelograms is that the opposite sides are congruent. So I know that JM is congruent with KL. Put single hashes there. I know that JK is congruent with ML. Put double hash marks. Now again, this is actually not because of the triangles. The triangles are not what says that. What I'm using are rules of a parallelogram. Okay. I also have a third angle, a third side I mean, this shared side. I know that JL has to be congruent with itself. So, knowing rules of a parallelogram, I've gotten that all my sides are congruent, which leads me to SSS. And now for my statement. Well, let's just go MJL. Triangle MJL. Well, I want 1 hash mark to 2 hash marks. So I need to do the same thing. I need to go from 1 hash mark to 2 hash marks, which means I need to start at L and go to K. And then from K, jump to J. And don't forget your little triangle marker. Well, for example number 6, we've had lots of practice with naming things that are congruent and with determining statements. Here they've given us a picture and they just want to know which postulate. Okay? Well, here I know angles with an included side. So I've got angle, side, angle. Angle, side, angle. Over here for B, well, I've got 2 angles. This one with this one. This one with this one. And I've got a shared side. So again, angle, side, angle. I'm going to look at C. I see some angles. I don't see any sides marked. I don't see any shared sides. I do see some vertical angles over here. And this would be AAA. But AAA doesn't give us any, doesn't tell us that these are congruent. It'll tell us that they're similar, but we can't say congruence based off this. So these are not congruent. And some last examples on this really long set of notes. Here we want to take our drawings and we want to mark them according to what it says. So it says that E is the midpoint of KW. Well, that means that we're halfway between. Use that one. It says that KEG is congruent with WEH. So I mark those. And then it says that angle K is congruent with angle W. Now I know it's very tempting to mark these as right angles, but it never told us that those were right angles. It just says that they are congruent. They may be at 89.9 degrees, which is not a right angle. And so now we have it marked. They give us the first one, KEG, KEG. We need to come up with a second one. Well, K had the double lines. W's got the double U. E's got the single. E has the single. G has none. H has none. So we're talking WEH. And by what method? Well, angle, side, and an angle. A side included between 2 angles. Angle, side, angle. And now for number 8. This one's a little bit harder. Here it says that FP is congruent to HP. And that angle F is congruent with angle H. And that's all the information they gave us. Well, I can tell I've got a shared angle right here, an angle P. And so if I look at this triangle, I've got one triangle that looks like this, P, F, and S. And I've got another triangle. It looks like this. It's got P, R, and H. I've got these marked with singles. I've got this marked with doubles. And I've got my long side over here marked, and I've got my long side over here marked. So I know they're congruent. Angle, side angle, angle, side angle. And now I got to figure out how. Well, they did PFS. From the double marks to the single mark to the no mark. So we're going to do the same thing. The double marks would be P. The single mark would be H. The no mark would be R. So, good luck working on the assignment. I know this one has been long and lengthy. You may need some help in class if you didn't quite understand why I put the letters in the order that they are. Make sure that if you come to a point where you're stuck, that you ask for help. Have a good day.